Hello, this SOLIDWORKS demo will cover adding foot details to your bottle. So some of these soda bottles have like a star-shaped pattern on the bottom for structure. So it's a little bit more advanced, and we'll go over some new techniques, but we'll cover a way to do that. So we're going to start by opening our most recent bottle, and it uses some features that are already in here, such as this plane that will move with the bottle size. But to begin with, we'll edit our master sketch. Alt-N to look normal to it, and now we can add our new feature here. So this is the pattern I'm talking about. It's always a good idea to add new features to the master sketch where possible. It's just good file organization. For if you need to edit your file down the road, or if someone else needs to work on it, it's just best practice. So I'm tracing just half of this triangle detail, and then I'm going to exit the sketch. Now at the bottom of our tree, we're going to create a new front plane sketch. And we're going to copy from the master the triangle we just created. And I also want to copy this midline and this baseline from the bounding box. So I'm just going to click Convert Entities. I'm going to click Alt-V to hide my sketches, so I'm only looking at what I'm working on. This midline I'm going to change to be for construction. I'm going to hit the, actually before I do that, I'm going to mirror this. So this is a new sketch feature. So I'm selecting the triangle and this midline, which is set to for construction, and I'm going to find mirror entities in my sketch tab. SOLIDWORKS is intuitive because this is a construction line. It guesses what we want to do and just mirrors it for us without any prompting or questions. I'm now going to trim this shape out using the Trim Entities tool, or T for trim, and simply just cut all this extra stuff away. I realized that this lost its relationship. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these three things and double check the relationship of symmetric. So now it's defined again. And now while we're still in here, I'm going to go ahead and create an extruded shape. And now this might seem counterintuitive. You might want to cut away from this. But the cut is like actually at an angle. There's some curvature to it. So what we're going to do is a new technique. We're going to create a positive body through this extrude command. And later down the tree, we're actually going to combine the positive body with the green body in a relationship of subtracting this new positive body from the green body. So hopefully that makes sense as we move on. So now what we want to do is we actually want to change where this is coming from. So the star-shaped pattern is a little bit offset from center. I measured my bottles to be about 0.3. So we don't want the sketch to start here. And like I said, we want this shape to rely on this existing features we have in here, which we can't see right now. So I'm going to hit Alt-V so we can see them. And what we want is not for the feature to be blind, but to say up to vertex. And we want to select this vertex here, or what I call as endpoints, the endpoint of this line. And if you recall from the previous grip tutorial, that this point will change in space as the width of the bottle changes. So what that means is this positive feature will grow as the bottle grows, or shrink as the bottle shrinks. Now, very important, we want to make sure merge result is not checked. And now we are creating this kind of extruded shape, and we can go ahead and click the checkbox. And there we have it. Now, if you look at your bottle, if it has that star-shaped foot, you'll notice that there's a bit of an angle to it. So we're going to create that angle by subtracting, cutting an angle into this block here. So I'm going to select the right plane. And actually, in order to work on this without all this other distraction, we can right-click on this and say Isolate, which is under Body here. And what that does is it just kind of hides all the other bodies, so now we can see our block shape a little bit more clearly. So we're going to select the right plane because we want to cut from the side here. And I'm going to hit Alt-S to create a new sketch, Alt-N to look normal to it. You can see it kind of flipped it on us here. I hope that's not confusing. But we want to cut a diagonal in here. So I'm going to just hit the L for line tool, and I'm just going to simply select, just so you can see what I'm looking at. We're looking at this side here. I'm going to select the top point and the bottom point, and then click Escape. And now while we're still in the sketch, we're going to go to Features, and we're going to say Extrude Cut. And now we are extruding cut without a closed shape. It's just a straight line. So the way we get away with that is under direction, we want to say through all both. And then you can see it slices it like a knife, kind of. This little arrow here is showing us what the area that it's going to be where the cut is going to remove volume. And that's correct. We want to remove this volume. We want to leave this here. And now as far as what we're cutting, we want to make sure we don't cut the bottle. So under auto select, we're going to uncheck this, or feature scope rather, we're going to uncheck auto select, and we're going to click our block. And then we're going to click on the checkbox. And now you can see we have put this angle in here. So eventually what we're going to do is pattern this body around, because obviously there's multiple cuts down here. And so we can save ourselves a couple steps by modifying this body to make the cut look how we want when we do the subtraction combine. So we're going to do that by going and loading our fillet command by adding some curvature to these edges so our cut looks a little bit softer. And we're going to use a different kind of fillet. We're actually going to use a variable fillet. If you look at your bottle, or at least on the bottle I have, it looks like the fillet is a bit larger on the bottom and a bit smaller on top. So we can do that by here under items to fillet. So selecting our edges, again, after we've selected variable fillet. So we want to select these two edges. And you can see it brings up questions in these unassigned boxes as to the value. So in the top box, I'm going to type in 0.1. You can see it applies that fillet to the entire length of the edge. But in the bottom box, I'm going to type in 0.3. It can be hard to select these boxes sometimes. I'll match it on the left side here. So here you can see it's a little bit hard. It's kind of like fishing. I'm just trying to click in this box. There we go. 0.1. And down here, 0.3. And we do have some other settings we can play with. You can see this has this kind of hourglass shape. If I scroll down here, you can see smooth transition. That's the default. I'm going to go for a straight transition here. So it's just like a straight line. I think that matches the look of the bottle a bit better. And when you're happy with your settings, you can click on the check mark, and there you have it. So now I'm going to click on Exit Isolate. So now we can see the full bottle. And as I mentioned, we're now going to pattern this body, and then subtract it from the green body. So we're going to go to linear pattern here in our feature tree, and really the arrow just below it, because this is another circular pattern. And again, direction's a bit confusing. This is actually asking us for the axis. So we want to select the center line from our bounding box. If you can't see it, Alt-V should show it for you. And now here's the thing. It's trying to pattern a feature. And up until this point, that's what we've been doing. But truthfully, feature patterns are not the most robust. It's always better to pattern a body whenever you can. It's just a couple more steps. So for the introduction, the feature pattern works well. But whenever possible, if you can pattern a body, it works a little bit more robust. And here you can count the number of gaps in your foot. For me, it's 5. So here I'm going to change the setting to be 5. So again, we're just patterning this positive body. And I'm going to click on the check mark. And now here's where we're going to do this combine command, which is a new feature. Now typically combine is an addition tool, but you can see there is a subtraction option here. So the main body is the green one, and the bodies to subtract are these 5 blocks that we created. And I'm going to go ahead and check that box. And now we have something that looks similar to our real life bottle, hopefully. Obviously it's just a little bit jagged, so the plan here is to just correct this by filleting it out. So we select the fillet feature. I'm just going to go for a standard edge fillet here, maybe 0.1. We'll see how that looks. And I'm just going to go around and select all these edges. Sometimes you can get errors in situations like this here. It looks like it's playing nice for us right now, so we'll just go around and select this and see what it looks like. You can visually match this to your bottle, but I think 0.1 should get us close. If you can always go back, and this is why it's nice to have this in the master. You can sort of change this angle, bring it in, change the height, and it should update for your file. Now it's another good idea. So there I just brought it in a bit. Gave us a little bit more room here. It's always a good idea once you do that. Well, let's hit save now that we have this. But it's always a good idea now to just go ahead and check your bounding box and make sure that changing the size can update. So we're going to go to 2.4, change this to 8. It's pretty drastic changes there. See if there's any errors, which there are. And this is, again, it's a good way to check your file. We just saved it, so no worries. We didn't lose any work, so to speak. So I can see now, I'm guessing what happened is in our master, because we didn't define this height, and it's clear now, if we look at our master, that it's just this little itty bitty shape, whereas it used to be a lot taller. So I'm going to Control Z and see if I can undo my bounding box changes. Exit this. Hopefully it rebuilds. If not, I can open my file. Wonderful. And so now that I know that that failed, I can edit my master. And what I need to do now is dimension this height. So now hopefully that this star size will always change with the bottle. So now let's try it again. See if that fixes our error. So we'll go now back to we can save again before making any major changes. Go to our bounding box, 2.4. I'm just making these numbers up, 8. See if this updates now. And there we go. Got a little smaller, but the star shape rebuilt. We can go back to our bounding box and make this larger, 9.2. Change this to 3.2 and see if it rebuilds. And again, if there's an error, you just kind of, which there is. So the fillet at the bottom here failed. Here it's very clear what happened. Like I mentioned, this got too skinny here. So we can fix that by going back to our master sketch. Changing this angle, bringing it in a bit. This will make that wider. It also looks like it's a bit short, so I don't know if that caused an error somehow. And there you go, that fixed it for us. All right, so yeah, if you need to create some foot grip or detail pattern, again, often this is a structural reason because there's carbonation in here, so this gives it some ribbing at the bottom for structure. You can add that to your bottle.